Welcome back, boils and ghouls, to the Theater of Blood horror show. I am Tony.
I'm Matt.
And we are back with another show. Another one in 1 month's time that we didn't want to do.
Yeah.
We said goodbye to George Romero.
Hard to do.
About almost a month ago. And now we are saying goodbye to another one of the Mount Rushmore of horror. Tobe Hooper. The great Tobe Hooper, who died a few weeks ago at the age of 74.
I mean, literally, during our George Romero podcast, we said, Tobe Hooper, John Carpenter,
they're the only
take
two.
care of yourselves.
Yeah. And Tobe Hooper ignored us and died.
Yeah.
So
literally, like a few weeks later.
It was. I believe it was 2.5 weeks after George Romero. Yeah. Tobe Hooper.
The master.
Yeah, here's the thing before we get into it, and we've spoken about this many times. We have Matt and I have a Mount Rushmore of horror. One I can interchange, but I agree that he needs to be on there. Our Mount Rushmore of horror: George A. Romero, Wes Craven, Tobe Hooper, and John Carpenter.
Makes every show.
He does. And now, as of August 26th, when Tobe Hooper died, 2017, there are three of the Mount Rushmore of horror gone. There is only one. John Carpenter. Stop smoking. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I
say live how you want, John. It's brought you this far.
Yeah. But yeah, John Carpenter's the only one left, and I'm getting sad. I'm getting sad as years go on, and I've said this before on this show and to other people. My dad said, wait till you hit your 40s, your idols will be going. The people that you grew up with watching their films will start going. And it's happening, not just horror, but at a rapid rate over the past few years.
Yeah, it's all the people we care about, yeah.
Yeah. But this is our Tobe Hooper show, so rest in peace, Tobe Hooper. This one's for you. Tobe Hooper.
Hard one to do.
I mean, we all know, for lack of a better way to say it, the big elephant in the room. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, changed horror films again, after they had just been changed, if you think about it.
If you're saying Psycho before that.
Well, I'm saying Psycho, I'm saying Romero's Night of the Living Dead, and I'm saying William Friedkin's The Exorcist the year prior.
Yeah, that's true.
Then here comes, just when you think it couldn't happen again, Tobe Hooper says, watch what I can do to it, and gives us this whole other aura, if you will, of horror.
Such a visceral experience.
It is
realistic, almost to a documentary style.
Yeah, it is.
Way before anybody else did anything documentary-esque.
I agree, and I tell you, one of the great things about that is the fact that if you talk to anyone who doesn't watch it once a year, like we do, or something like that, who loves horror and who has seen that film, oh, that's one of the goriest films I've ever seen. No, it isn't. It is not.
Heralded as one of the most gory.
But it's not. It is
suggestive.
It's in your mind. Yeah, it's suggestive. It's in your mind. It's not on screen. I mean, it's gross, and you can almost, like the dinner scene, I can smell that scene.
Yeah.
And they also said that it was, because they had to black out the windows, they filmed it in daytime. It was like 100 degrees in that room or more, and the food was rotting. But yeah, it's a lot of. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a lot of people think that it is this big gore fest. I think the title also helps that reputation.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's not at all.
And talking about it being suggestive, one scene that really sticks out to me is the girl on the meat hook.
Yeah.
And in modern horror now, you see the hook go in,
or you at least hear the.
all of that.
You don't hear anything.
In this, it's just he lifts her up. You see the hook in the background.
Pops her on.
He puts her there. She stays, and some blood comes down by her feet.
Yeah.
And it's so much worse
It
way.
It is. You're right.
It's so much. It has a real feel to it.
Exactly.
Like, oh, that's real.
And she's reaching up behind her, trying to get off the hook for a minute. Yeah, it's a horrifying movie. And I mean, we've talked about it, and I'm sure someday we'll do a show dedicated to it, so we won't make this a Tobe Hooper Texas Chainsaw show. But the merits of this film can't be denied. And speaking of Tobe Hooper, I mean, a lot of people say that he is not a master of horror, and I say they're wrong. And if anybody wants me to end the argument, pop on Texas Chainsaw and pay attention to how he puts that movie together from the very first scene to the very last moment. It is terrifying. It's my second favorite horror film. The Exorcist is my favorite, but it could be the most terrifying horror film I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
Rex Reed said that as well.
Yeah.
The once great Rex Reed, who didn't like horror films, and this one got to him and terrified him. And every critic just about loved this film. Ebert, Siskel both gave it 4 stars. It's a masterwork of horror cinema. It really is. And of course it entered into the horror lexicon, the great Leatherface.
Creating that iconic character.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want to turn this into just a Texas Chainsaw show because there's so much to talk about. But yeah, I mean, you have to start there. And any argument about, I mean, his work goes up and down later in his career, but any argument about that he wasn't a master of horror, Texas Chainsaw ends all arguments, in my opinion.
I would agree 100%. Plus, he's had other solid contributions. And
yeah, well, it's,
Well,
that's what I mean. I'm just saying, any of the people who think those other contributions aren't solid, watch Texas Chainsaw.
One of the best horror films of all time.
It really is. In my opinion, number 2. He followed that up with Eaten Alive, another favorite of mine. I mean, it's not a top 10 or anything.
Now this one is thoroughly enjoyable to true horror fans.
It really is.
You have an alligator that eats people. You have a whole Clue almost like hotel room.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Mystery shenanigans all going on, and some grisly death in the middle of it all.
Run by the great Neville Brand, a great character actor. One of the first appearances of Robert Englund.
That's true.
And Quentin Tarantino tipped his hat to Robert Englund in this film in Kill Bill, because Robert Englund's name was Buck. And he says, "My name's Buck, and I'm here to fuck."
That's right.
And Tarantino used that in Kill Bill.
That's
yeah,
right.
No, Eaten Alive, is it silly? Yeah, guy runs a hotel, feeds the people to his alligators. It's an alligator psycho, if you will, without a mother complex. And
the alligator maybe was his mother. I don't know.
You're right, yeah. But yeah, it's fun. There's really nothing. It's dumb. It's fun. But it's done with a little. It's one thing that Hooper is not given enough credit. Was not given. I hate using that. Was not given enough credit for, and it's in Texas Chainsaw as well. His humor.
Yeah.
He made most of his horror films were dark comedies in their own way.
Yeah.
Eaten Alive, certainly.
I mean, it just the way you would paint something so plainly, and then almost I wouldn't say spoof it, but you get what I'm saying.
I do, and that'll come up again when we talk about Texas Chainsaw Part 2 and why it failed at the box office.
But not in your opinion.
No, not in my opinion at all. Since day one. After Eaten Alive, he tried to do. There was a movie called The Dark that came out in 1979 about an alien.
Yeah.
William Devane and Kathy Lee Crosby. and it wasn't very good. It was okay, but he got fired off the project. Differences, the old creative differences.
Yeah, and that's debatable on another film.
Yeah, exactly. And that led him to a Stephen King adaptation. The
Ah,
1979 television miniseries adaptation of Salem's Lot. A
Yep.
film I still like a lot. I still almost love it.
Had
And
a lot right.
And it's nobody's fault. It's really dated. It's really
Well,
dated.
you made it with a TV budget, so the
TV
kid
budget,
floating in front of the windows.
that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, that stuff. But at the time, it was
It
creepy.
was very creepy.
Yeah.
And
like you said, turning Barlow. We were
Yeah, he
talking about
turned-
this earlier.
in the
Turning
novel-
Count Barlow into a very menacing-looking vampire.
Yeah, like a rat. Like a Nosferatu rat is what he looked like.
Yeah.
And because in the book, Barlow is this long-haired European beauty, if you will.
But he did look a lot like Max Schreck's character from Nosferatu.
Oh, he did, and that was on purpose. And
Yeah,
Tobe Hooper
definitely
fully admits
influenced.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he turned him into a Shrekky Nosferatu type. But and look, dated aside, it works. The scene with Jeffrey Lewis in the chair with the eyes, and that
Yeah.
all works. And the look of it, the setting of, even though it was mostly a television Universal Studio or Warner Brothers Studios backlot, the look of Jerusalem's Lot was perfect.
Yeah.
And I think it stayed as true to the novel as it could have back then. And yes, like you said, at the time, and still on certain scenes, it's creepy. It still works.
Yeah.
And I still
there's
like
a lot
Hutch.
that does. Yeah, there's
That's
a
the
lot
star
that
of it.
does.
Yeah, David Soul. No, there's a lot that works. It's just the kid at the window scene doesn't work anymore. It's really bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's budget constraints. And it's back then they gave you less money for TV. You know, now it's all the best stuff is on television now.
Yeah, Walking Dead and whatnot.
Yeah,
You look at the production values they
yeah.
have. But also, computers have made things more
little
simple in
easier,
some
yeah,
ways,
yeah.
and you know,
I love Salem's Lot. I still do. When I talk about great Tobe Hooper films, I always include that. And to his credit, we didn't mention this. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a no-budget movie that made millions. Millions until John Carpenter stole his spotlight 4 years later with Halloween. Everybody talked about the little movie that could was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
that was the highest-grossing independent film at its time,
Independent horror, yeah. Maybe independent film, you're right.
and then replaced by Halloween,
Yeah.
which was replaced by another horror film.
Yeah, but a
Which
longer stretch that time.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
longer stretch until you got to Blair Witch, which was replaced by Paranormal Activity.
Right,
which-
yeah, we get it. But Eaten Alive, the follow-up to Texas Chainsaw, did not do well at all. Studio didn't know what to do with it. They just threw it out. It didn't make any money, and nobody gave a shit. And it's still hard to find a decent copy of Eaten Alive today.
True that.
But But true that.
bro.
But hey yo, but Salem's Lot, yo, that made bank, yo. No, Salem's Lot was a big
For NBC,
yeah,
because it was made for television.
for TV. Salem's Lot, I mean, I guess instead of making money, it got the high ratings. It was a smash. It was like gigantic. And I remember because I was a young pup when it came out, and just the furor over that thing was it was the talk of the town. It was wonderful. And I'm glad for him, because guess what it led to? Poltergeist.
Poltergeist.
The oft-debated, is it Hooper or is it Spielberg? Is it Hooper or is it Spielberg?
Ask either of them, and you still don't get a clear
No,
answer.
you don't. Or the cast who have spoken on it. Oh, I'm sorry. Before Poltergeist, there's one we should mention, which is my second favorite.
Texas Chainsaw 2.
No, that was in the 80s. 86. No, The Funhouse, my second favorite Tobe Hooper
Yes.
film.
Yes.
I love The Funhouse.
Yeah. Creepy antagonist monster thing.
It's a very let me explain it. I'll explain it slowly for people because it's a very convoluted plot. 4 teenagers spend the night in a fun house and there's a monster chasing them.
That's it.
That's it.
There's
I was
your
joking.
story.
It's not convoluted. But that has always been my second favorite Tobe Hooper film.
It works.
I love that movie to death.
It's paced very quickly.
It's
You don't need much setup. It's just like boom,
No.
we're in this situation and shit's on.
Yeah, and it's his craft in that one. He had that was Universal backed. He had a studio budget. He had his first Panavision camera.
Yeah.
And he was had his first chance to really show some directorial chops, which I think he really did show. His Steadicam, that was the first time he used a Steadicam.
Yeah.
Because he had a budget. And his use of Steadicam, at the opening, he tips his hat to Carpenter's Halloween there, with the kid in the mask and his just playing a goof on his sister in the shower. The great Elizabeth Berridge. I like it. I think it's great. I think the monster is just some sideshow freak that went nuts and starts killing everybody. The great Kevin Conway plays multiple roles, actually. He plays 3 different Barkers, and he's also the main caretaker of the beast.
Yeah.
The great Sylvia Miles has a cameo as a weird gypsy lady who does fortune telling. It's just really the lighting, because they're in the fun house at night. It's creepy. It's his use of Steadicam.
Yeah, some parts have tracks going over it, and some parts have
right. And he has long and he I don't know what his reasoning was, but he allows shots to just slowly pan and move and lets us take in everything, and that's really, before or since, the only time Tobe Hooper ever directed a film that way.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
true.
love it. I think it's a great horror film. It's scary, it's creepy, it's tense, it's got a great score, and it's a lot of fun.
And it deserves its own place in a must-see horror film for
does,
any
yeah.
real horror fan.
And that's a hidden treasure. And Shout Factory, the great I Bow at Their Altar Shout Factory.
Yeah.
I bought it was like 3 years ago now, but they did the Blu-ray release of the Funhouse, and there's a great retrospective documentary, and it looks better than it ever has, and I bought it the millisecond it came out, and yeah, but sadly it's still a hidden treasure. Like, not a lot of people know the Funhouse.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's one of those, isn't that the one where, when you say, for me, if you say the Funhouse, you should, oh yeah, that's the Funhouse. But for some reason, it's just kind of out there, floating in the wind. And I'm a big fan. I think I can already tell I'm a bigger fan than you, but
No, I'm a fan, but
yeah.
it's something I've seen occasionally growing up. It wasn't one of the staples.
I love it. I love it to death. We'll have to watch it and do a show on it this Halloween season.
Sounds good.
I could watch it anytime. The Funhouse, yeah. It's my second favorite Hooper. And then he did, and it turned a profit. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it made money. And then he did Poltergeist, and then Spielberg did Poltergeist, and then Hooper did Poltergeist,
and then Spielberg did Poltergeist.
Yeah. Poltergeist. Yeah. I don't know anybody that doesn't like Poltergeist.
Well, it's a great film. It was made for all audiences. It was the horror safe for children, but still has some real scares for the adults.
Oh, that and the kids, that goddamn clown.
Oh yeah.
To this day.
Oh, that may be the influence behind Pennywise. Who knows?
And I'm not scared of clowns. That scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. But it's still a creepy sequence.
Oh, it is.
One thing I love about it, and I don't know if this was Hooper or Spielberg, but in the scene where he's first looking at the clown, and this is before the clown comes alive, the lightning flashes and we cut to the clown, but his hair is moving. His hair's like, is it the air conditioning? The
Yeah.
window's not open. What's blowing his hair? I always liked that. I thought that made it creepier.
Yeah.
But no, and again, we don't have to get into the what's and wherefores of Poltergeist. Everybody knows it. I would like to know someday who did the most filming on Poltergeist. Because Hooper was there and Hooper filmed it, and yeah, but was Spielberg over his shoulder all the time, or just input in some moments?
And he was never removed.
No,
Never
he was never
discredited.
removed. There was Spielberg doesn't have a bad thing to say about him making the movie.
They still say they're each other's friends.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that Hooper did it. It was just a project that Spielberg was very passionate about. So if he was hands-on with it, it wasn't something Hooper had a problem with.
Yeah, and Spielberg was on set.
And they worked together.
Yeah.
You
they
know,
said he was on set almost
and
every
he did
day.
a lot of second unit stuff. Admittedly, did
Right.
a lot of second unit.
Oh yeah,
shooting.
and you can see the Spielberg moments in it. The big number one, the neighborhood is a Spielberg neighborhood.
Oh yeah, I mean it's straight out of E.T. Right?
And I love Jerry Goldsmith, and it's one of his best scores, but it's a very Spielbergian Jerry Goldsmith score. You know, I'm surprised he didn't say, Tobe, I'm gonna call John Williams. But I love Poltergeist, and I would love for someday. You're probably right. It was probably 50-50. But I'd like to know who did what.
Yeah.
I really would. But
it'd be nice to know, but I think it's one of the things that we probably won't know.
Never.
Before.
No, we never will. But
before
luckily,
the end takes us.
luckily that was a monster, forgive the pun, success. And so that was 3 in a row for Tobe Hooper, Salem's Lot, The Funhouse, and now Poltergeist. So the studio said, here, you want to make whatever you want? Make whatever you want. So what did Tobe Hooper make, I ask you? A little movie we like to call Life Force.
Oh. He's
was-
like, look, I'm going to have this extremely hot girl naked the whole time, and then I don't really have to concentrate on the story.
And they said, we're sold. Here's the thing. Life Force was supposed to be called Space Vampires.
Space vampires.
And I'm kind of glad it wasn't. That's a bit of a Z-grade title.
Corman-esque.
Yeah. I have always loved Life Force. However, the version we've seen is not Tobe Hooper's full cut. The studio cut it up, dubbed other people's voices, changed an actor. The studio completely changed that movie, and Hooper disowned They changed the score. They brought in Henry Mancini when I can't remember who did the original score. But the studio changed everything, and Tobe Hooper said, no, this wasn't what I wanted it to be at all. But I still liked it.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
I
You
liked
had
it.
Patrick Stewart fly up in there, and so many
Great
other.
Frank Finley and Peter Firth, and yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious!
A little bit of trivia: the actress, the naked actress, alien actor, Matilda May, who is naked for 98% of the time she's on screen,
90
was so traumatized by doing that and by the awful reception to the film that she never made another. That was it. She didn't like that.
I'm apparently not an actress.
Life Force, it's a weird movie. There's an alien force, and they come to London to suck everybody's souls out or whatever the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they're doing. The hell are they doing? Couldn't they have just been space vampires?
They were, and she was revived on the ship.
Great Steve Railsback. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't. It worked for me and you, I think, right?
No, it was entertaining.
Yeah,
it
didn't work.
It was overall fun. You had stuff popping up in that movie that you hadn't seen in film before that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. And to this day, you talk about Life Force, and you're like, God damn, nobody would have the balls to try something like that today.
Yeah.
In a big budget studio backed film.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, that's true.
Girl walking around, people getting their life force sucked out of their faces, and people floating up to the
A
sky
lot of
and
sexual innuendos.
London on fire. Steve Railsback and Matilda May having sex in midair while somewhere. And what does it all mean? I don't know. Nietzsche couldn't figure that shit out.
It cures the world.
But does it? I don't know. But no, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I think if you like a movie, you like it. But you could recognize that it's not a perfect movie. And that's where I feel about life. That's how I feel about Life Force. I like it. I'm proud that I like it. But I also recognize that it's a big mess. And was a big flop.
Yeah.
But the studio system said, hey, you gave us 3 in a row. We trust you. You fucked up. They gave him another chance. Invaders from Mars, the remake. I don't not like it though.
I remember all the previews for it.
Oh, it was a big movie.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a big movie.
Was that around the same time as Critters?
Critters is 85 or 6, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember
Critters was not a big
to a lot of
movie.
the Critters videos when you rented that.
Oh, it was the preview.
Was the Invaders from Mars?
Yeah.
Previews.
I like it. It could have been better, but I enjoyed it. It's a nice remake. It's a better movie than the original.
Certain amount of his humor, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Certain amount of his darkness, which he brings to his stories.
But again, this thing flopped, and I think a reason it flopped. The mid '80s weren't horror nostalgia'd up yet. If that would have come out in the mid '90s to late '90s, early 2000s,
yeah, with all the nods to what was coming before it, yeah,
right, yeah, that would have been a big hit, I think, because it's well done, it's well acted, it has an interesting story, a cool payoff at the end there,
yeah, and fun special effects,
yeah,
not
good,
not really good,
not
but
super
fun,
class,
fun.
but not too, yeah. And people just stayed away. I was 16 at the time, so... I mean, no, I wasn't. I'm not that old. So I don't remember how big the studio got behind it. But nobody went. So that's 2 big studio flops in a row. So he had one more chance. And New Line came a-calling. And New Line said... Why don't you do a sequel to Texas Chainsaw? And Tobe Hooper had wanted to always do one. But, so he gave us, so he gave us the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
And that's what it was called. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Right.
There's no, The Electric Boogaloo or anything after that title.
It was Texas The Next Generation,
Chainsaw Massacre 2.
The Day After, more, the Saws...
The hardening.
Yeah, right. The oiling of the saw. Yeah, people weren't happy. At all.
Because he said, hey, I did horror the first time. Let's do a horror comedy.
Yeah. And I think that people weren't ready for that either from a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. But what these assholes forgot... in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, how many times do you laugh at that movie? I laugh a lot. I laugh at Franklin and his annoying whining. I laugh at the hitchhiker.
And the situations when he gets stuck in his wheelchair. Ah, damn it.
Yeah.
Everybody left me behind.
I laugh at the father. Look what your brother did to the door. And only in Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, the horror was... distant and the comedy was in the foreground, and I think it turned off a whole generation of horror fans, except me and my dad. We loved it. We saw it, and then we saw it on beta. We loved it. We loved Texas Chainsaw 2, and he loved Dennis Hopper in it. I am the wrath of God. Yeah.
And I remember when I first watched it, the moment they came after him in their pickup truck in broad daylight.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is a completely different animal than the first film. And I bought into it, but I was also young enough that I thought it was just extremely cool.
Oh, it was. Carolyn McWilliams.
Yeah.
And the great.
As the DJ.
Yeah.
Which a lot of horror films have parodied since.
Yeah,
that
sure.
DJ character.
Yeah. And then, lest we forget, the great Bill Moseley.
Chop Top.
Chop Top. I'm immediately into horror history. Immediately. Even with all the people that hated it. Everybody loved Chop Top.
Rob Zombie would never have chose him for any of his films.
Had he not have done Chop Top.
Yep. Had he not been Chop Top.
You're right. I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I think, like we've spoken about on other shows about other things, it is the flip side of the same coin. Sometimes you get a coin that's really shiny and beautiful and you love it on the one side, and you flip it over and it's kind of got that griminess, but it's still part of your coin and you're going to use it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a masterpiece and one of the most frightening films ever made. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, a fun horror dark comedy sequel to that film.
Yeah. Awesome.
And never
done by the creator.
Yeah, done by the creator. And it never
So you can't argue with it.
It never no, you can't. It never strays from what makes Texas Chainsaw Massacre great. You know? You have your Leatherface, you have your crazy family, you have your wildness. It's just amped up in this and done with more tongue-in-cheek.
And I've never thought about this before, but they're kind of on the lam at the end of that film.
Yeah.
And that is the Devil's Rejects compared to House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
That was his Texas Chainsaw Massacre too.
Right.
Holy crap, I never realized that.
I just did myself. Yeah. Yeah.
And then he went on to do some television work for a while.
Yeah, because we should say because he had 3 hits in a row that made him.
Yeah, and
then he had 3 flops. And it's not just that they didn't do well. They all flopped hard. Life Force, Invaders from Mars, and sadly, especially Texas Chainsaw Part 2, which almost went straight to video. Almost.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he was just there. The doors started slamming in his face, and sadly, never fully reopened. But go ahead.
Yep. And then he did episodes of very famous shows that everybody knows. Amazing Stories, Freddy's Nightmares was a short-lived Freddy spinoff on USA Network, if anybody remembers that.
I do.
Yeah. He did Night Terrors. He did Tales from the Crypt.
He even did an episode of The Equalizer.
Yeah. The Equalizer.
He did
and then came back to film again.
In 1990?
Brought Robert Englund in again.
Wait, what?
The Mangler.
Oh, you jumped ahead 5 years.
Oh, I was going to talk about.
You forgot Spontaneous Combustion.
Oh, yes.
So moving on from that movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, did I forget
movie.
about it?
Look,
did I forget about it? I was just going to gloss over that.
Yeah. Look, Brad Dourif, I love you. He's a member of both of the groups, by the way. I'll give it another chance. I haven't seen it since it came out. It's hard to find. I can't find it. But Spontaneous Combustion, holy shit. I don't remember liking that much.
Yeah.
At all.
I don't remember it, which probably means I didn't see it.
You forgot his Body Bags episode.
Oh, that's
the great
true.
Body Bags, yeah.
Well, that's almost like television work. He worked with John Carpenter then.
On a Showtime series.
Yeah, John Carpenter makes every show.
Yep.
Yeah. Was it an HBO Showtime series?
Yeah, Showtime. But that was it. It was just those. And then it was
that
one and done.
It was. I thought it was just a movie.
No, it was. I mean, it was. Yeah, but they wanted to do a series, and Showtime didn't pick it up.
Ah.
Like John Carpenter was going to be the coroner. Is that what he was called?
Right.
And in every episode
and give like an introduction. Yeah. He was going to be the crypt keeper.
Yeah, basically. But that
right.
It didn't happen. And before the Mangler, Tobe Hooper did a little thing with Robert Englund called Night Terrors.
That's right.
Yeah, about a bizarre cult. That didn't really work either. I don't know. You've never seen that, have you?
Let me see.
Yeah,
I'll click on it.
I was not a fan. It's not awful. It's just kind of there. It's okay. Robert Englund's doing his crazy guy
Was it like
thing.
a giallo type?
No, it was just I saw it once. It was just a little horror film. There wasn't a lot of gore, despite of what it's called. Then yes, he did The Mangler. You can talk.
Robert Englund was in on Night Terrors, and
Yeah.
then again apparently on The Mangler.
Yeah.
But hey, he likes to reuse his actors. Sorry about that.
When we talk about, and we have to, because we're talking about his whole career, bad Tobe Hooper movies, I think I have to say that The Mangler is his worst film.
It was pretty cheesy.
I think it's horrible. I think it's just horrible.
It wasn't cheesy. Texas Chainsaw 2 cheesy.
No.
It was just, yeah. It tried to take itself seriously.
It did.
And stayed cheesy.
And be scary, and it didn't work. And
that's one thing if you're like trying to go for cheese.
Yeah.
It's another thing if you're trying to be scary and it comes off cheesy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And no, it doesn't work. And for me, nothing in that movie works. Like The Mangler. I'm sorry, Toby. I know this is your tribute show, but The Mangler is a truly bad film. A bad film. Holy
Really?
shit. Yeah.
Yeah, based on a very, very short story by Stephen
And
King.
not so interesting. Like, why did you adapt that, let alone into a full movie?
Now I wonder, I'm just thinking about this for the first time, have all of the, what do we call them? The faces of horror,
The Mount Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore. Have
they
they
all
all
done a King?
adapted a King story?
Yeah.
At
every
some
one of
point?
them. Yep.
All right,
Oh, wait,
so-
Wes Craven didn't.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is Wes
Craven
Craven the
did,
only
no.
outlier?
Thank God. Yeah, no, he didn't. He didn't do one.
What do you mean, thank God?
Look, we've talked about this. Quick break on the Hooper talk. We've talked about this.
Yeah, but
I agree that Craven belongs on the Mount Rushmore.
Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yes.
alone.
Serpent and the Rainbow,
The Hills Have Eyes,
and Last House on
and
the
Last
Left.
House on the Left.
That's
not
it.
enough.
No, it is enough.
But you're sitting here and we're talking about Tobe Hooper,
Yeah.
and you're telling me more bad than good. You're
On-
not naming
on who?
more films than those
What are you talking about?
for Hooper.
What do you mean? Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Funhouse, Salem's Lot, Eaten Alive, Poltergeist, Invaders from Mars, Life Force. I've got 8.
Oh, you like all those?
Yeah, I got 8 that I give a thumbs up to.
But,
Texas Chainsaw 2, that's 9. There's only 4 Craven
maybe
movies
a little
I
more
like.
prolific.
4.5 Craven movies. Scream is the half because, yeah, at the time, but it does not hold up well.
Did change the game.
It did change
and
the
it did
game.
Change cinema.
Well, it changed Hollywood horror cinema.
Yeah.
Didn't change cinema. But no, and I'm not knocking Craven. I did a tribute show to him when he died. But and he is a master of horror, and he does belong on the Mount Rushmore. I have no issue with that. Because he's the only one that stayed in horror, you know. Like if Raimi stayed in horror, I might want to chisel him over Wes Craven. But he jumped out. No, I have no problem with Wes Craven being on there. I'm just saying for me, he's only done 2 horror masterpieces and 2 great horror films. And a slew of shit later in his career.
Agreed. So, I'm guessing your masterpieces are Last House on the Left, Nightmare on Elm Street.
No. A Nightmare on Elm Street is a masterpiece.
Okay.
Hills Have Eyes is a masterpiece. The Wes Craven one.
It's really good.
I think it's a masterpiece for what it is. This no-budget, dirty, gritty, grimy,
Yeah.
you know. I think it's wonderful. Last House on the Left comes pretty close. And Serpent and the Rainbow is a great film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 4.
I know. I'm not saying he doesn't belong. I'm just saying.
What, New Nightmare?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
That was good.
Yeah, I know.
Especially
I'm not
for
saying
something
it
that was
wasn't.
already a played out genre and
Yeah.
played out character.
I know.
To reinvent him.
We need to do a Wes Craven show.
Yeah.
We're going to do a Wes Craven show.
He deserves it.
So we can talk about it.
But he didn't do a Stephen King.
No, he didn't. That's interesting. And Tobe Hooper, Carpenter only did one. Romero's done a couple, and or was going to do a couple, and Hooper did 2.
Well, Romero worked directly with him.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Creepshow.
Oh yeah, and I guess The Dark Half as well.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, and so Hooper did 2.
Creepshow is the better of the 2.
Oh, of course it is.
And Dark Half was me.
Yeah, but Tobe Hooper, no, he did 2 King adaptations, and only one was successful for me and for the rest of the public. Yeah, then Hooper got really stuck in TV. He did Crocodile in 2000, and trying to turn Eaten Alive into a serious horror film, and it did not work. Here's the thing. Late in his career, he did a couple of low-budget movies that I enjoyed, and I thought, hey, he's going to make a comeback here.
Toolbox Murders and Mortuary?
Yeah. Both. I own them both. I love Toolbox. I like Mortuary.
Yeah.
But they were both solid, low-budget horror
films.
creepers.
And then...
they both worked.
And then went back to television. And one fail, one huge hit.
Masters of Horror.
Yep.
He did his first episode for the first season could be, it's not a movie, so I don't say it's his worst movie, but could be the worst thing he ever did.
Dance of the Dead.
Dance of the Dead is horrific.
With Robert Englund.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Every time Tobe Hooper works with Robert Englund, unless it's Eaten Alive, it doesn't seem to work out.
Unless it's Buck and he wants to fuck.
Right. No, Dance of the Dead it's an attack on the senses in a bad way. It's like Michael Bay doing a low budget horror thing. I just remember it's flashy, it's loud, it's in your face, it's always and it doesn't make a lick of sense, and it's stupid.
Goes nowhere.
You're right, and it's dumb.
No exciting moment.
Dumb. It makes the Mangler look like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's dumb. But his second episode, The Damned
Thing with Sean Patrick Flannery.
Yeah.
Of Boondock Saints fame.
I guess.
Well, I mean, Boondock Saints
he
had a
famous
fandom
right,
to it. Norman Reedus, Mr. Darryl is known for that too.
No, The Damned Thing is a damned good episode of Masters of Horror. It's one of the best. It's an excellent movie, or show, episode, hour.
It was fantastic.
It was great. It was great. And a solid story. It was almost a Stephen King-like story.
Yeah.
It really was.
A blood of the earth type creature.
Small town, sheriff saving the day.
Is it oil? Did they tap into oil? Did they tap into something deeper?
Right,
exactly. Yeah. Really good.
And the title's kind of kingish. The Damned Thing.
The Damned
Sounds
Thing.
like one of his short stories,
It.
But no, I like it.
The Damned Thing.
Yeah.
That bitch.
Right. So that was 3 in a row. Toolbox Murders, Mortuary, and minus the first one, Masters of Horror.
Yeah.
And then he disappears again, and then sadly only got to do one more feature. And to those listening, it's on Netflix, or it was. Please see it.
Jin.
Pronounced Jin, yeah. But
is it worth it?
Yeah, it is. It's
on Netflix?
Yeah, it was about a year ago. It's very creepy, very well done, very simple. He filmed it overseas. It's about a what's the word I'm looking for here? Help me.
I have no idea what you're looking for, so
I am looking for this
can help
word.
you none. He is literally looking at me and waving a hand.
I am. Well,
it's about
the couple
prostitutes.
No, it's about
Frogs.
a couple with a new baby who has who they're in an apartment building, and the djinn is a fairy tale. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Like a scary fairy tale. But there are malevolent things in there, in and around and under their apartment. And you haven't seen it, so I won't say more about the plot. I will just say that look, it's not like wow, that's almost as good as Texas Chainsaw, but it's like Toolbox and Mortuary. It's a like there's only 4 characters in the whole thing, and he films it tight. It's in an apartment, but he films it tight. He films it dark, very moody, very Gordon Willis-esque on the lighting. The guy shot The Godfather in many 70s. But it's good. It's a solid creeper. It's not going to scare you. I mean, it might scare some, but I mean, I'm jaded.
Right.
And you are too, so it won't scare you, but it's creepy. It gives you an uneasy feeling, and it's well directed. Jen, his last movie. It's okay. I give it 3 stars.
I need to watch it.
Yeah,
I have
good.
to watch it.
It's
now.
solid, and that was it.
Yeah.
That's
and then we were robbed.
And the rest is silence.
And then we were robbed.
We were, and it's sad because he goes down. Like Toolbox Murders has a minor cult following, but nobody even fucking knows about Mortuary. So he basically goes down with, and nobody's seen Jin because it didn't get released over here. So Tobe Hooper goes down with most people saying, well, he didn't do a good movie since Salem's Lot or Poltergeist. And then half the people don't even think he directed Poltergeist anyway. So
yeah,
it's sad that, and I wrote an article. I'm going to put it up on, and I think this is the time to do it. I'll put it up on our page. When we get our website up, I'll put it up there too. But I wrote an article that was published for the magazine I used to write for about Tobe Hooper being, I can't remember the title, but and how underrated he is, and how he deserves his place at the table. And he does. He was a master of horror. He knew horror. He knew how to do it. He might not have had the budgets of the Carpenters and well, none of those guys had budgets either, really. Just occasionally. And he had a few chances too with budgets, but
it almost seemed like he flourished more.
Oh, he did better. Yeah,
under
sure.
the gun of the low budget.
Yeah, I mean,
forced himself to be creative.
His best films, the Texas Chainsaw 1 and 2, the Fun House, Eaten Alive, Toolbox Murders, those are all low budget, independent-ish films. And you're right, he flourished with less money. I don't think Tobe Hooper, like Romero, Craven, and Carpenter, whatever you think of the work they did, they all found at least one success working with the studio. Carpenter got screwed after that with the studios and never worked for him again. But they all found easy work with the studios.
Yeah.
And I don't think Hooper ever did. And because his first, Poltergeist, but his first time out, people, well, did he even really direct it? And then his second studio time out is Life Force, and they just completely trashed it and made it a different film than the one he shot. So, I don't know, Tobe Hooper, if he ever really got the chance to show his stuff in studio films. But like you said, it seems like he flourished on the lower budgets and out of the overly watchful eye of Hollywood producers.
When he's allowed to be himself and do what he wanted to do.
And I also, something about Tobe Hooper, when I was writing for that magazine, I talked to, and I'm still in contact with one of his people, as they say. And it's funny because I wanted to do an interview with him for the magazine. And they said, well, we can talk about it when he gets back. He's doing location scouting overseas for his new film. Apparently that turned out to be Jin, which he shot, I believe, in 2013. So But I always, now especially, I'm like, I never followed up. Like once I stopped writing for the magazine, I never. But then I started making contact with her again when I started doing the podcast, and then when we started doing the horror podcast, and I've got all these other people I'm in contact with, and I never fully, and then he's dead.
And then that's that.
And that's that. I will never have a Tobe Hooper interview. And I don't think it's my fault, but I should have, I said, okay, when you get back, I'm writing, so I'm not writing for a magazine. Doesn't mean I can't interview the guy,
Working on that. Yeah, working on my documentary.
Or I wish I would have done it, when we started the horror podcast, but that's one of my regrets with, got off on a little tangent there, but I regret not
taking
through and
seizing the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he's Tobe Hooper, and
he is.
We'll never have anybody else like him.
No, we'll never have anybody else like him. And for whatever, let's pretend that the rest of his movies sucked and he never did another good movie. I don't believe that. I'm just saying. We still would have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was.
So it's your rebuttal again to all the people that say,
yeah,
he's not a horror master. You're goddamn right, Anthony. He created one of the best, most influential horror films of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
Changed the face of horror, period.
He did.
And he did great things after that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. The master. And it's sad to think that we will never get a new release.
We'll never get a new Tobe Hooper film. We'll never get a new George Romero film, nor another Craven film. And
I feel like it's when Adam Urich died.
Who?
Oh, Adam Urich.
Who's that?
MCA.
Oh, Adam Urich.
We're never gonna get a new Beastie Boys.
No, we're not,
album.
and that was a big crush for me as well.
Yeah, never a new Beastie Boys album.
But you're right. It's
never a new Romero film.
Yeah.
Never a new.
It's strange to think.
Tobe Hooper film.
It's strange to think because I always knew, for better or worse, with Romero, that sometime down the road there's going to be another Something of the Dead movie. For better or worse, he's going to do one more because that's his thing.
Yep.
And now there never will be. And with Craven, there was always a chance that maybe another Freddy movie. There'll never be another one, at least Craven based.
Yeah.
With Tobe Hooper, unfortunately, we're getting more Chainsaw movies, but he doesn't have anything to do with them.
Man, they'll keep going.
Yeah, but I would have.
You want to know how iconic that horror film is? They're still remaking it.
Yeah.
This is his fourth
That's another
invention,
yeah,
fifth
another
reinvention.
Yeah, who knows?
How many times is
every
this film?
decade they do it.
More than a damn Marvel film.
Every decade they do it.
This is as remade as Spider-Man or Batman. Damn it.
Yeah, but it's sad, and he did an interview around the time of Toolbox Murders, and he said that he wanted to revisit that killer too. I don't remember the killer's name, but he said he would like to revisit him in a sequel to Toolbox Murders. And so none of these things will ever happen. And his last film, which is good, not great, but it's solid, it's good, nobody saw. And Tobe Hooper is only going to be, hey, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy died. And Tobe Hooper, while he's not the genius of Carpenter, who is my favorite horror/genre director, he was a master of horror, and he had style, and he had his own thing. And for some strange reason, he had a hard time making a go at it for his entire later career.
Yeah.
And I'll never get it. But
the 3 studio flops in a row might have.
Well, no, I get it. I just mean, why was he not allowed to come back? Carpenter had a tough time, then he was allowed to come back. Romero was allowed to come back with Creepshow. between Creepshow and Dawn of the Dead. Well, there's only a few years.
I think there was stuff worthy of comeback material.
I do too, and I'm sure Tobe Hooper had lots of ideas that he couldn't do because no studio would back him, because they're still living in the '80s on his triple in a row flops. Give a guy a chance.
Give a dog a bone.
Exactly. Well, I mean, Tobe Hooper, one of the masters of horror, according to Matt and myself, and he is gone. And we have what we have, and we have some great stuff. We have some true classics.
Yeah, he left us with a lot.
He did.
I mean, that's the great thing about artists like this. You can argue over what he put out being good or bad or how it influenced you, but it did influence you, and it exists.
Exactly.
And some of it is goddamn great.
It is. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. He's got some... And it's funny because
sorry, I don't mean
No,
to cut you
okay.
off, but I'll say this real quick. You have an artist. He gives you one thing that's amazing and 10 things that are pieces of shit. You see pieces of shit every day, day in, day out. If somebody gives you something that's great, that's a wealth of gold.
Right.
That one thing is worth 1,000 pieces of shit.
Right.
And he didn't just create one.
No, he did
thing.
much more.
He certainly created one amazing thing.
When he died, I'd say almost every headline I read, Texas Chainsaw Massacre director Tobe Hooper dies.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Massacre.
And which, hey, fine, because when Carpenter goes, Halloween director John Carpenter dies. That's what it'll be.
Nightmare on Elm Street director dies.
And that's
Nightmare
fine.
on Elm Street Scream director
right.
dies.
And that's fine, but Carpenter, Romero, Craven all had other chances and other hits. Tobe Hooper had very few other chances and very few hits. But he, and he got stuck in television a long time. But he kept going, and, Jin, thank God Jin's not a thumbs down for me.
Yeah.
At least we have a thumbs up on the way out. I'll be interested to know what you think of it.
Yeah, I look forward to watching it. You say it's still on Netflix.
It's creepy. I hope so, yeah.
I'm going to check it out.
So, yeah, Tobe Hooper is gone, and he joined Romero and Craven. They're up there screaming down at Carpenter. Not yet. Well, like the great line in Gladiator at the end of Gladiator. I'll see you again, but not yet. I'm not done living.
Please,
so, yeah.
Please, God.
And I think that's all I have to say about Tobe Hooper. Very quickly, from the few people that have worked with him that I have spoken to in my travels, he is apparently the nicest guy, the sweetest man.
Yeah, that's another thing that comes up constantly. Just how much of an awesome guy Tobe Hooper was.
Very sweet, very
the
kind.
The nicest, kindest person.
Soft-spoken.
Yeah.
John Dugan, Grandpa from the original Texas Chainsaw, and more stuff, but we're friends on Facebook. We've chatted a few times, and he's going to do a interview with us one of these days. I don't know what happened back then, but he was not the biggest fan of Tobe Hooper. But mind you, he only worked with him back on the original Texas Chainsaw, and that was apparently one hellacious set to be on. So,
yeah.
But he doesn't have anything bad to say about him, but he's not a fan. But he did say a nice goodbye to him on his page. But yeah, so I confess, even though I hate all these dirt magazines and knowing celebrities' lives, and I don't care, I'd like to know what happened. I'd like to know why he thinks that.
Yeah.
Because everyone else, Carolyn McWilliams, everyone else says that he's just such a nice, very soft-spoken guy.
It could have been first film jitters. He felt he had to do it a certain way.
Yeah, sure.
Came across not the way he really was,
right,
like when he did everything
yeah.
else. Well, maybe he needed to be more of a dick.
Maybe, I don't know, yeah.
I don't know.
But in any interview you see him do, he's And this was, we did this, and then we took the camera here, and it was kind of nice, and he had that kind of voice, and I kind of like, that's a pretty good Tobe Hooper impression, by the way. That wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
I hope everybody hears it. It looks like a flat line on our recording screen. But no, Tobe Hooper, I wish I would have had the chance to do the interview. I regret not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our Hooper show.
I didn't think we could do it in an hour, but we actually did it in an hour. Tobe Hooper, as a horror fan, as a film fan, I will miss you. And I'll miss your work, but guess what? I have it, and I have the best stuff you ever did at my house, at my fingertips, anytime. And I own all his favorites, my favorites.
And to have that, to be able to get that, is an amazing thing. That's stuff you created, Tobe, and I thank you for it, because you've given us glory. And for any negatives that anybody ever puts out there about your work, it's work they didn't do.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Like, I can spew all day, all the bile about The Mangler, but guess what? I still haven't done a full-length feature film yet. So,
yeah, you make a mangler, then talk
exactly.
about it.
Yeah, let me get a mangler out there, and then I'll trash him.
I'd love a mangler. What? I had a movie. It was made.
I'll take a mangler, a studio cut of Life Force, whatever. Just let me get my movie done, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Tobe.
Thank you, Tobe Hooper. And I made him a little richer because I have like every version of Texas Chainsaw that came out I bought. The new transfer, transfer, the 4K digital transfer.
He's certainly gotten money from me over the years.
Yeah.
This, that, and the other.
And we saw...
Trademark this, trademark that.
We saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre together about 5 years ago at the AFI.
At the AFI. When they replayed it, we went and saw it at the big screen, which was amazing.
It was fantastic.
Amazing.
And we didn't care, and it kind of added to the enjoyment. It was an archive print, which means that's an original print,
right.
Which means it's not cleaned up, which means there was lots of pops and scratches, but it kind of added to it.
Yeah.
It was like we were seeing
felt like an old-fashioned film. It was awesome.
Times Square, Sleaze Theater in 1976 or something. Yeah, it was great. Sitting there with Travis Bickle.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was our Tobe Hooper tribute show. Did you have anything else you'd like to...
I guess my final parting words would be, if there is anything you heard from this podcast that interests you, anything in any more of his work, go out and watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it for yourself. That's what we always say. Make your own opinion.
Yeah, look, if you haven't seen The Mangler, and trust me, I'm not the only one that says bad about it. It's pretty much considered awful. But guess what? You could be the one person that likes it, so go out and watch it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies I like that nobody likes. I don't have an example right now, but nobody likes, and I'm like, whatever. I like it. Yeah. I'll give you one. John Carpenter's Village of the Damned. Everybody says it's a piece of shit. I like it. I enjoy it.
I don't say it's a piece of shit. I just say it's unnecessary because it's shot for shot the same movie that was made in the 40s.
I agree with that, too.
50s.
But this one has the John Carpenter soundtrack.
And Christopher Reeves.
So there you go.
And Luke.
That's right. As a psycho preacher. All right. Well, goodbye, Tobe Hooper. I'm tired of saying goodbye to my favorite horror directors this month. But goodbye, Tobe Hooper.
Goodbye, Tobe.
And thank you for all the great work you did and left us with. And horror fans everywhere love you and mourn your passing, as we all do, including the fans of the Theater of Blood horror show.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Stay scared, and we'll see you on the next show.
Peace.